Knowledge doesn't belong only to academicians. Everyone can be knowledgeable if they want to be. The same goes for photography. It doesn't belong solely to photographers, photography enthusiasts, or so-called serious photographers. Everyone can and is entitled to do photography however they want, because in the end, photography is a means to document life. That's why camera manufacturers develop products targeting specific segments of people interested in photography. The Pentax 17 is indeed a conversation starter. There is a lot of debate about whether the camera is meant to target serious photographers. Well, I'll let you decide what you think about the camera. As you may know, this channel is all about photography for fun. Often we don't really care about limitations in terms of gear. I don't mind if my photos suffer from grain, bad ISO performance, lack of sharpness, or weird coloring. As long as we have fun and don't drain our wallets, I'm happy with it. For someone like me, who likes to have fun with the camera but doesn't want to spend too much money on it, half-frame cameras make sense. They are not for everyone. Since they are half-frame, you will have more noticeable grain, especially if you shoot higher rated films. I always wanted to shoot more films, but 36 frames per roll is still too expensive to shoot frequently. I want to be more generous when shooting film, and I'm okay with sacrificing image quality, and that's the key. If you don't want to sacrifice quality, then skip it because it's not for you. However, $500 for a Pentax 17 is too much for me. Don't get me wrong, I've watched some reviews on the Pentax 17 and the results look great to me. It's just not within my budget. I think all of my cameras cost no more than $200, often much less than that, so I looked for cheaper alternatives. From my initial research, there are many half-frame cameras options, but for film photography, the most important criterion for me is that the camera must be fully mechanical. So any camera with selenium cells, light meter, or that requires batteries to operate is out of questions. I want full control over the shutter speed, aperture, and focusing distance. The best candidates turn out to be 4 different cameras: the Olympus Pen F, Olympus Pen Original, Olympus Pen S, and Olympus Pen W, which can be quite expensive. And the last one is the Canon Demi EE17. All of these cameras are quite rare in my country, especially the Pen W. Of those listed, the Olympus Pen F might be the best options. Unfortunately, the price is still not quite within my budget, and the camera itself is too big for me. I want a small, pocketable half-frame camera that I can carry around and shoot whenever I need it. That's just my preference. If you are okay with the size, the Pen F with its interchangeable lenses is definitely the best alternative to the Pentax 17. I like the look of the Demi EE17, but the back of the camera opens with a hinge, which I'm not really a fan of. When it comes to film camera, I prefer the removable back design. I couldn't find a proper Demi EE17 in the market, but I found one listed with a bunch of film cameras for $23. The seller listed it as display only, supposedly not working anymore. But since this EE17 can be operated fully mechanically, I took my chance. The shutter turned out to be working and the viewfinder is bright. It just needed a little bit of cleaning, including the lens. I'll let you know if I can save this camera from the dead. The Olympus Pen W is essentially the same camera as the Pen S, but way more expensive, or you can say a limited edition version of the Pen S. The Pen W, or Pen Wide, is a very rare variant of the Pen S model with wide angle 25mm f2.8 lens. So the final choice was between the Pen S or the original pen. Initially, I got the Olympus Pen S on the market for a fair price in a very good condition at least physically. Everything was perfect with only small dents here and there, which I think is normal for vintage cameras. But when I loaded Kodak Gold and started shooting, the results were absolutely chaotic. All my shots were heavily out of focus. Not a single one was in focus, though I carefully measured the distance for every subject I photographed. After doing some research, it seems that the lens on this Olympus Pen S suffered from what is called lens decentering. The frame line in the camera was also displaced and needed to be glued back in place, as I could hear some rattling inside. I think the previous owner accidentally dropped and damaged the camera, resulting in the lens decentering. The lens elements were not in their proper place anymore, messing with the focusing. I can do basic overhauls on my cameras, but lens decentering is beyond my capability. Of course, I was upset, but I didn't want to argue with the seller, so I decided to accept my fate. Yes, it has to be me, I'm the chosen one. So if you want to buy one of these Olympus pens, make sure your copy doesn't suffer from lens decentering. Since I desperately wanted to shoot more film and it had to be with a half-frame camera, I decided to snap another one. This time, I found an Olympus Pen original on the market with a crack in the viewfinder chamber. It was a bit of a gamble, hoping that the lens was fully working. The camera was quite dirty. I suppose all of the dirt was a result of WD-40 spray intended to clean the camera before shipping, but ended up leaving residues. So I did some basic cleaning, removed the top lid, and replaced the viewfinder chamber with the one from my Olympus Pen S. The design of both the original pen and Pen S is almost exactly the same, so the parts are almost all interchangeable. Luckily, both have 28mm lenses, so I can keep my Pen S as spare parts if anything happens to my Pen original. Of course, if you are okay with not fully mechanical half-frame film cameras, you have even more options. You have the Demi original, Demi EE28, and a wide range of Olympus Pen EE series. But the downside of these auto or semi-auto film cameras is that if the light meter fails, the camera is practically useless. So make sure the particular copy you want to buy is in fully working condition. I bought a half roll of Ilford Pen 400 to do a wild test on this Olympus Pen, and I was relieved that the lens worked properly. So I put in a roll of Fujifilm 200 to do another test. When Yoshihisa Maitani, the Olympus legend, designed this camera, he spent most of his budget on the lens because for him, a film camera is all about the lens. This original Olympus Pen was the first half-frame camera produced in Japan. It was one of the smallest cameras to use 35mm film in regular 135 cassettes. After doing some research, I found out that this particular copy is a rare variant of the original Olympus Pen. Some key identifiers are the red flash mark at the front and a horizontal bar in the film plane indicator that doesn't pass through the circle, and horizontal indents in the shutter release as opposed to vertical ones on the Pen S. This particular copy doesn't have the original color of the leatherette for the front plate. The original color of the leatherette of the Olympus Pen original should be greenish, like the one on the back cover. These two back covers are interchangeable, so I decided to switch them so the front and the back have the same color. This is a very simple camera. I'm always amazed by vintage cameras like this. It's surprisingly well built. Like they built it to last forever. You can feel it as soon as you hold it. This is not plastic at all. This thing is made of steel all around, except for the viewfinder chamber, which is made of plastic. Some Olympus Pen copies have a metal viewfinder chamber. I believe it was the 35mm variant of the Pen S. Here at the top, you have a film counter that needs to be reset manually. Since this is half frame, you have twice as many frames as a regular 36 counter, which is 72. The counter counts down from 72 to 0. Don't worry if you still have a couple of frames left after 0. The counter will go past 0 and that's not a problem. Here you can find the shutter. The shutter is very quiet with almost no vibration when you push it. This is incredible for a fully mechanical film camera. I don't even hesitate to shoot in bulk mode, handheld, as long as I can keep myself perfectly still. Here you have a cold shoe, and at the far end you have a film rewind knob. On the original Pen you only have one strap lock, which also serves as the screw for the top plate. To unscrew it, just put a screwdriver through the loop and start turning it. On the Olympus Pen S you have two strap locks on each side, and they decided to put the screw separately here. The back of the camera is removable through a locking mechanism on the bottom, where you also find a pin to push when rewinding the film, and a tripod screw. To advance the film, there is a scroller, which is very easy to use, and I really liked it as opposed to the traditional film advance lever. I think this scroller also complements the compact design of the Olympus Pen. Like the Pentax 17, this camera uses a zone or range focusing system, so you need to make an educated guess of the distance between your camera and your subject. Since this camera doesn't have a light meter, you can use the Sunny 16 rule or a light meter app on your phone, like I do. At the center of the lens, you have the aperture ring, and on the outer ring, you have the distance focus setting. On my Olympus Pen Original, the distance is in meters, which is more familiar to me compared to the feet markings on the Olympus Pen S. On the outmost ring, you have the shutter speed selector. Note that the Pen S is slightly superior with a maximum shutter speed of 1/250 a second compared to the original Pen, which has a maximum of 1/200th. Of course, if you compare the results from this camera with the Pentax 17, the Pentax is superior since it has modern coating technology on its lens. But if you are looking for a compact, fun half-frame camera to carry around, this camera will serve you well. If you want more top secret hacks and tricks to transform your ancient cameras into Hollywood superstars, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to join me on this photographic roller coaster. Until next time, keep snapping and keep it budget tight. Au revoir.